What is up, Pin Up fam? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the 3 things that concern me or that I'm worried about when it comes to WWE 2K22. If you guys didn't know, the game's going to be coming out soon here in March. And I have 3 things, like I said, that I am really worried about. And I just wanted to voice my opinions, put these things out there, see what you guys think. And hopefully, now that it's January, we should be starting to hear more about the game soon. So hopefully all of my worries are, put to rest once we get some more news about the game. But before we get to that, like I said, I want to talk about these 3 things. Before we get into the video today, guys, it would help me out a ton if you could please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It all helps me out immensely, and I would really, really appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much. And with that being said, let's get into the first thing that I'm worried about for WWE 2K22, and that is the roster. Now, I feel like this is the most low-hanging fruit, like the most obvious, like what's gonna happen type of situation revolving around this game. And I feel like I am concerned for the roster for a specific reason that not many other people are considering. At least I feel like. So a lot of people that I've talked to are concerned about the roster just on a basic playable character sense. Like they're just worried that a lot of their favorite wrestlers won't be playable in the game. And don't get me wrong, I am also worried about that to an extent. I mean, obviously there are community creations, and I know that's not exactly the same as having someone, fully face scanned and their entrance music and everything in the game. I know it's not exactly the same, but my concern when it comes to the roster is more along the lines of I'm worried about potentially how much time and effort they put into creating, face scanning, motion capture, doing all this stuff for superstars that have been released and may no longer be able to appear in the game. Now, obviously, we don't know right now what is going to happen. If you guys don't know, if you guys don't watch the actual WWE programming, WWE has fired or released something like 200 or something almost wrestlers over the past 2 years, and a lot of which probably were set to appear in WWE 2K22. And so let's take an example, for instance, The Fiend Bray Wyatt. He was one of the most high-profile releases we've seen. So just imagine, let's just say, for example, and I have no idea about the behind the scenes of the game, so don't read into this too much, but let's just say, for example, what if The Fiend was going to play a big part in the My Career mode, right? So now that he's released, say they can't use him in the game anymore. Well, if he was going to play a big part in the My Career, now you have to find a new wrestler that is still on the active roster that will still be appearing in the game. You have to either scrap all of these storylines, depending on how Supernatural and Bray Wyatt based they were, and either scrap them, and you have to go back and completely write something new, re-record with new wrestlers, re-record new commentary, create new cutscenes or whatever. Or if they can somehow say maybe they replace Bray Wyatt with The Undertaker. Okay, that can still have all the supernatural bits and pieces to it. So then you have to bring in The Undertaker to record all these voice lines. Then you have to bring in the commentary team to re-record voice lines for the match so that they say Undertaker now instead of Bray Wyatt. Or you have to, all this different stuff, remove Bray Wyatt from the cutscenes, sub in The Undertaker, all this stuff that you really wouldn't think about, but that's what they have to do if some of these people can't appear in the game anymore. And like I said, we don't really know what the how they're handling all these releases. We're gonna find out here soon once they reveal the roster, but I think more than playable characters, we could see very big issues in some of the other modes just because of the nature of all of this stuff. And even down to t-shirts in the crowds. If somebody's not allowed to appear in the game and they accidentally throw their t-shirt in there, they could be in a lot of trouble. So it's all really, really complicated, and I really hope that for the sake of at least 2K22, I hope that most of the more recently released people at least can still end up in the game. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to end up or not, but I really, really hope that's the case. So the second thing that I am very concerned about when it comes to WWE 2K22 is the controls. Now, if you guys don't know, one of the biggest complaints when it came to WWE 2K20, at least for a lot of people, myself included, was that the controls absolutely sucked. They were complete garbage. They changed them from 2K19, which, I mean, the wrestling game controls have been stupidly complicated for a while now. Like, throughout pretty much the entire 2K era, they've been getting more and more complicated, and I don't really understand why. And I understand there's a lot of different actions in WWE games, and, you know, controllers only have a set amount of buttons, so you have to figure out how to fit it all on one controller. I understand that. But I think the greatest thing about some of the older WWE games on like the N64, or I think they even started to lose it once they transitioned into like the SmackDown vs. Raw games, is that you could pretty much just hand someone the controller, give them a couple of the basic controls, and then they'll pretty much figure it out. The thing that you cannot do that with the newer WWE games for the most part. Like, there's just so many different button combinations you need to know. Like, you have to tap X a bunch of different times to grapple, and, you know, whichever direction the left stick is facing will change which one you do. And to do your finisher, you have to press like square and triangle at the same time. And if you have a running finisher, then you have to hold L2 and then hit square and X at the same time. And then if you want to drag your opponent, you got to hold R2, L2 and drag them. It's so overly complicated. And 2K22 is not doing a good job at remedying that. So I'm just looking at a screenshot of the controls right now. And so they're about what you'd expect from previous games, except there's now a light and heavy strike attack, which are square and X on PlayStation. Then you have your grapple set to circle, which is normally your Irish whip. You have reversal on triangle again, but then if you hold triangle, you will block, which is whatever. R1 is now dodge and climb. The right stick down is pin, the right stick up, left, and right is to reposition your opponent, and clicking in the right stick is to change your target. You have your 3 different taunts on the D-pad. Clicking in the touchpad on the PlayStation 4 controller will both display your current target, but also swap your current team member. And it's just like, you should always try to avoid having multiple different actions tied to the same button. And it's just like, and then you have to hold R2 and then hit X for a finisher, hold R2 and square for a signature, R2 and triangle for a payback, and R2 and circle for a submission. Like, this is far too complicated, I think, personally. Like, I think it's slightly better than what 2K20 had, but this is not a good... Like, this isn't good. Like, the idea of making it more like a fighting game and having a light and a heavy attack and a block and a dodge, and like that stuff sounds cool on paper, but I just don't know if it's worth it to make the controls even more confusing. And like someone who's been playing the games for years, like me or you, we'll be able to pick this up and get it down in a couple minutes. But like, some of my friends who haven't played a wrestling game before ever, or who haven't played a wrestling game in years, they're not gonna know they're not gonna know what to do with this. They're gonna be accidentally, they're gonna be standing there punching the entire game. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I feel like there's gotta be a way to simplify this control scheme and not make it more complicated, which I feel like is what they did with 2K22. And I don't know that it would help a ton, but I think just in general, the game needs the ability for you to be able to go into the options and just remap the controls however you want. And I mostly want this, I want this both as a, hey, I think these controls suck and I would like to be able to change them if I want to, but also from an accessibility standpoint, because somebody with disabilities is not going to be able to play this game with this control scheme. Regardless of what kind of controller they're using, regardless if they're using like an Xbox adaptive controller or whatever, they're not going to be able to play with all these different button combinations and stuff. So that's also why I think button combinations for simple actions, I feel like, are kind of useless and should always be avoided. Like, I don't know who signed off on this control scheme, but it's not good. They really should have gone back to the drawing board. I feel like there has to be a better way. There has to be. I don't know what that better way is, but I mean, I'm not the one getting paid to figure this stuff out, so. And the final one, this one's gonna be a little bit shorter, but my final concern for WWE 2K22 is the MyFaction mode. If you guys don't know, this MyFaction mode is essentially going to be a WWE 2K version of like a Madden Ultimate Team or like a My Team from the NBA games. And I hate stupid microtransaction-y bullshit. I don't understand how every other developer got canceled for using loot boxes, and yet nobody in the sports like game genre cares about these stupid card packs. And it's bullshit. It's all predatory. Like, it's not fun. Like, I've tried to play these game modes before, and they're literally just not fun. Because if you're not dropping a couple $100 every couple weeks, you're not going to be able to keep up with everybody. So it's just like, to me, it's useless. To me, it's scummy and predatory. And granted, I am surprised that it took 2K this long to actually implement modes like this, considering they've owned the WWE license since, what, 2013, when 2K14 came out? So I am kind of surprised it took them like 7 to 8 years to implement that. Well, no, 2013. It's been 9 years. Well, 8 or 9 years, depending on how you look at it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. It's just the whole My Team card pack thing. I hate it. It's so dumb. And I just don't see how this would work well as around the idea of a wrestling faction. Like, it just seems like they found the most bullshit, half-assed way to force this into the game, which is, I'm sure, exactly what they did. I'm not saying it won't be fun or well, I mean, I kind of am saying that, actually. I don't think it will be fun. This is the one thing that no matter what they say about it, they're not going to be able to waive my concern about this. I'm not going to touch it, probably. Unless there's trophies tied to it, I might, begrudgingly play it for a little bit, but other than that, I do not see myself touching this mode. But guys, let me know what you think. Are you concerned about any of these things? Do you have other concerns about WWE 2K22? Please let me know down in the comments below. And once we start to hear more official news about this game, I will be letting you guys know. Hopefully we get a roster reveal pretty soon, because I am quite interested to see what they do with that. Other than that, I would love to see more Creation Suite stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Those are the things I'm looking forward to. But guys, let me know down in the comments once again. And please, like I said at the beginning of the video, please help me out. Leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel for more WWE and just gaming content in general. But yeah, this has been my top 3 concerns for WWE 2K22. Hope you guys have a phenomenal day. And guys, Phenom